proven by their T side, where they were just running out and just taking every single
They had
angel
some
they
good
had
team
to
play.
offer.
The problem was they made some very iffy decisions at times, which make me just think, why did you? What was the thought process? Maybe it's just them not understanding the map. Maybe train is just not something that they're particularly strong on. Who knows?
Well, either way, it's about to become a little bit more difficult for Spalker, because they're now they weren't good at the CT side of Train. That was evident by the way things went down, and now they've got to play pretty much the hardest CT side in the game, the CT side where you don't have any information. You have to go for those sort of aggressive peaks to find out everything that you want to know. On the T side, I think it could work out quite nicely for them, and actually it looks like Bpro, although it's taking them a little bit of time, they are trying to stay over onto that CT side. So that could mean that they do have a better opportunity of actually getting out a decent T half, and then, well, if Bpro don't have anything to offer, maybe they'll take it up the line. But it's that same sort of scenario as the last one, whereas, say, Bpro get 6-7 rounds, I feel like this is done.
Yeah, certainly can agree with you on that one, though I do look to see really just how much Bpro can do. 6 or 7 is an ideal benchmark, but even if they get 3 from 5, that's a very strong start. For me, it doesn't come down to the number, more how they get to that number. Will it be a clear-cut 5-0 clean sweep back off the back of a pistol round and a gun round win, or are they going to be looking just to squeeze out rounds where they can find them? That's really what's going to be the defining factor of this first half for me, and I believe that will follow through into the second half in terms of just momentum and mentality, because it's much harder to get that complete and utter reset in terms of the half swap than it is from just changing over on maps, which is a whole different element to be going into. But either way, we are going to be kicking things off. It's going to be Bpro, as mentioned, on that CT side. In terms of buy, it's going to be 4 sets of Kevlar backed up by the utility on a Fitchko, a smoke, flash, and frag grenade. Of course, Spalker, they're just going to be bringing the 5 sets of flat Kevlar as they go aggressive straight up with the drop.
Already we've seen some counter utility used and some quick trades early on. Of course, Leffy will find another kill eventually. So this is looking quite good now for the T side. Again, they're starting off strong. We're now looking at Zek trying to bring something back in this. A nice shot there from Psycho, bringing it back to this 2 versus 2. And the fake bomb plant seems to be a bit intriguing, because from there I'm not really sure they would have been baited too far in. And in fact, it's backfired quite tremendously. You have to wonder whether it's just worth going for the plant. Of course, Blocker definitely trying to win this round. Will fake again. That's a nice shot. Actually takes the head clean off of his opposition. And well, now all 1 bullet is all that's needed for the CT side to actually win this round. But at the same time, it took them a little bit of time to do it. They will win eventually, and the bomb will not be planted, which definitely could have been done. They had plenty of time.
Just down to that fact, it does very much open the doors wide open for Spalker to decide, you know what, we're going to go for a force. We're going to invest every single penny we've got, and we are going to be seeing that one come into fruition. It's going to be the Tech 9 armor play coming full circle. The only really player who's not really put too much in is Blocker, who's going to be saving up what seems around $2,000 or so, which is a smart play. It will ensure they get an AWP when they do decide to eventually go for that buy. And it still has armor.
Yep, Mag 7, of course, in play. It's not actually towards drop, which is quite intriguing. They're holding much further back. Nice shot from a Fitchko to start things off, but now the aggression will come out. Poison finds one, and this Mag 7 is not in a good spot. Poison doing all of the damage actually with the pistol, and now Nikki comes in, but it's just trades across the board. Again, seems to be a big problem at the moment with this Bpro roster. They're not able to hold in these second rounds and really have problems. Already we see they are in a decent position to take this one back, but it's way closer. This was just some pistols, a lot of damage done, but Zek, he seems to be the sort of saving grace for this team, and will just retake alone. Takes a hell of a lot of damage in return, but it's enough for him to win the round, and well, that's going to be enough for Bpro to get another. However, another bomb plant, so some extra money for that buy, which will be coming up sooner rather than later. They will drop over and pick up both Famises, which is definitely better than we saw prior, when in the it was actually more of a factor that in the next round there was coming another buy. But actually, it looks like Spalker are happy to go for this. So, yeah.
They're not holding back. They're putting every single penny they've got once again. And this time around, do we see a bit of a saving couple of players? And we will actually see Leffy and Poison keep back $2,000 apiece, which is still a sensible call. But the fact they're even investing is, well, questionable.
Is this a Bulgarian thing? I think MK definitely do
MK
this.
were a team that
forced
did
too
this.
much.
They went completely balls to the wall 24/7. This is not a full investment, which is completely different. But at the same time, it's something that could work out in their favour if they time things right, which they have done just so damn well. Payne going to find himself one, Blocker following up with a second. Now Blocker's in a huge advantage position, uses the shotgun to the best possible scenario, dishes out some damage on towards Psycho. Yes, he will find 2 apiece with the M4, but even then it's just such an uncomfortable one to be caught in. 7 HP on Leffy.
Actually gets another with the Molotov as well, so they have actually brought this back into a much more competitive position. Of course, the idea from the T's is if they were able to win that round, they would break the economy of the CTs and do a hell of a lot of damage. Of course, we do actually have a pause coming in.
So, apparently it's a technical, but the players are saying tactical. So, no, it is a tactical pause. There we have had it confirmed.
I can actually understand that because although they've won the 3 rounds, their CT side setup has looked
it's all
weak.
over the place.
Like they have lost a load of players every single time. They're taking a hell of a lot of damage. Either drop or plat is lost across the board. So yes, it's a very, very early pause, and I think that if things go wrong later on, they may have screwed themselves. But if they want to start off this CT half strong, which they clearly do, they're not going to be worried about the T half, especially looking at the previous one. They're just going to be saying, hey guys, okay, this is a practice opportunity. They should be winning this hands down. I know it may be harsh to say that it's practice, but it should be for a team like Bpro who've been up against decent opposition, and they can just say, okay, we've already found some ridiculous holes. We've been losing to the fact that just pistols have run and gun us down. Need to use utility, maybe need to compose ourselves a little bit more, and I'm not surprised at all to see Sporker buy again because they are dropping so many players. That's the one sort of positive about the fact that they are continually buying, is the fact that they've left the economy of the CT side so very low that if they were just to win one of these rounds, they'd actually boost themselves into the next. The only problem is, like MK, they need to know when to stop.
Well, as you mentioned, you look at some of these rounds that they have pulled themselves into. Zek, he found himself the first frag in terms of that retake through the smoke, so they have been huge, big plays, but how long can they keep things going, and how long do Sporker just keep on forcing? Because they will actually be the ones to lose the first pick this time around. Payne, he will fall. Zek will be doing the damage with the AWP, so it is going to be working out in favour for Bpro so far. This almost kind of resounding tactical pause, not something you see every single day, a 4th round tac pause. So far, so good. The positioning much more passive, much more set up as a team. There's only 1 frag being found, and not too much aggression and pressure being put on by Sporker, which is really, for me, the thing to watch. When Sporker start to mount the pressure on Bpro's shoulders, we tend to see them react in a multitude of ways, sometimes very positive, where it works out in their favour. Sometimes we have seen them crumble over on train, where they just kind of fell apart. So for me, it's going to be very much down to this later round sort of portion. Sporker, they are starting to get a bit aggressive towards that B site. So it's inkling around, do we go towards drop? Do we send someone towards B platform? With a shoulder peek song coming in a Fishko. Now he's done himself some information. Goes a little late, but still finds himself a very easy headshot.
Yeah, and the one thing that was working really well for Sporker actually was this just sheer out run and gun strategy. They go aggressive together and then just trade the frags out. Instead, they sort of just tried to take this one at a time, and it hasn't worked out at all. I don't think they do have the more talented of the rosters. I think Bpro have that sort of aim position down, and peeking a Fitchco 1 by 1, he will just take your head off. So this has not worked. I don't see it working at all, and nice work from NK and Psycho. They're right at the end. Yeah, just keeping it clean, and I think that's really odd that you go, okay, for the last few rounds we've dropped quite a few players just by running in and going aggressive. They've taken a pause because they've been so worried about what we've been able to do by really just running at them. So what we'll do instead is swap and take things slow. I don't understand. And there was no opportunity in any of the frags that they took for a trade except for the 1 kill they got, which ended up with one of their players going down to 10 HP, and then they managed to sort of spray the player down together. Other than that, it's individual peaks, and we'll see that again at the beginning of the round.
They're still going to be going for aggression. They seem to have just taken a bit of a reforming step. The problem now is they haven't got the rifles to be going for things. Mag 7 just going to be doing so much damage, finding himself 2 very easy tags. Payne, yes, he will pick off Nikki, but it's just not going to be enough. These rifles, they are just acting like very much clear, decisive turrets, knocking them down 1 by 1. Only tags, but eventually tags, they turn into frags. And Bpro, we've talked about whether it would be a quick 5-0, whether they be back-to-back. Oh, there you have it. So far, 5 rounds. Very uncontested the past 2. Sporker, they get to bring something to the table this time around. And for me, if Bpro start to take their 6th, this is very worrying for Sporker. And this is where I start to look towards them. Well, what do you use to break the momentum? Where do you change?
The big thing is that just sort of capitalize off these frags. This time they have actually managed to get up early. I don't think Zek was quite ready for that, and well, after the Molotov goes down, there's no choice for SH but to continue his push. I do feel like in this circumstance, slowing things down a little bit will be better because they have found that initial pick, and waiting for Bpro to over-rotate could be a way that they get themselves into the round. The only real problem is that in individual duels they haven't been winning. They've been able to take down Nicky almost every time, but he's been doing a lot of damage. He has 5 assists at the moment with only 1 kill, which we saw him doing, what, 180 damage or so in the last round, which with no kills, it does say, okay, he's still doing quite a bit for the team. Oh, caught out there though, Pain. Nice, easy frag for him, as backing into an open angle is a bit of a risk from Zek, and I don't know if he heard someone over towards long. He can't have done because there's no one there. Must just be almost creating stuff in his mind. This time, Nicky is on point. He manages to hit the headshot and actually going to go for a repeat. Now knows exactly where they are. There's only 45 seconds left. There's a second as well. They need to be countering that.
Molotov or smarts that will delay them even further, but as you say, the counterplay, it should be happening. It's not happening. It's still now 3 versus 2. So certainly something like half a Spore to do some damage if the AWP can claw itself back a pick. But then the position of Nicky is so strong, backed up by Psycho in this crossfire. And it's just going to be easy pickings, a Sunday roast for Bpro, because at this point, it's 6-0, a dominant CT side. And Cobblestone is starting to prove to be, well, a completely different beast for Sporker to wrangle. We saw some nice things on train here and there in terms of, well, some shaky performances overall, but still some nice kind of shards of play.
On their T side,
I can't even say I'm seeing shards of play this time around.
on their T side, they were able to just get in and do like frag well, go aggressive, but this time nothing's happening for them. They're being taken down by nades, and they're not really using too many of their own. Towards the end of the last round, they went very aggressive without any sort of utility, and that just enabled Bpro to just hold their spots. Didn't get forced out of any positions. You're not making the CTs move, and the one real problem at the moment is the fact that the big advantage that the Ts have is the fact that their anonymity. Nobody knows where they are until they pounce. That should be the way it is, unless Bpro go for a crazy peek, and then you should be there to punish. Instead, it almost seems the other way around. Bpro are just scripting everything you're doing. They're working out where you're going. They're spraying you down through doors. They're using counter nades to slow you down if you go for an aggressive push. You're not using any smoke, so they can just pretty much guess straight away where you're going to be going. And you see a Mag 7 peeking out on towards Plat and getting away with 2 kills. It just shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be able to get away with that.
Shouldn't be happening indeed. It seems like damage already being inflicted on Sporker side. There's the first loss on towards Pain. Just clear-cut aggression coming in from Nicky. Just being allowed to do so much. Not Sporker contesting it at all, which is really the narrative of this map so far. Leffy, he will find himself one. SHP to find a second on towards Nicky. So finally some trades rolling on in, but still just a bit too late. But this could be very nice if he can connect the frag, which just towards the end, cutting it rather close, he will do. But now Fitchko in a prime one, just to upset him, cut his dreams completely off.
Because Psycho, he's already all the way around the back. He is a little bit delayed at this stage, but the more time there's for, actually, no, it's not going to happen. If Fitchko goes down, really staying alive would have been far more valuable. The only problem is Leffy doesn't seem to have any clue, and throwing out the nade should give away his position. I say should because it doesn't seem like Psycho actually has any clue, and that's smart. Now he's looking to go back. The only thing is he's taking his time and could get caught. Looks like he's just about got away with this one. But by the seams of it, Psycho should have a decent idea. He's cleaned all the angles and just going to go rotating all the way back over to A himself. So nice decision from Leffy. He's made the right sort of play, but now he has to capitalize.
Most importantly, he has to hit a shot. I feel like this is going to come down to the sheer aim. He's holding the door. Oh. Psycho seemingly trying to just outplay him here, but the timing could prove to be rather uncomfortable. Leffy needs to have an idea that he has dropped. That should have been something that was very easily heard. Psycho also should be clocking onto the fact that maybe not is all as it seems. Maybe he's not over towards sight. Looks like the backstab potentially going to be taking place now. Leffy going to be going for the peak timing.
Very smart.
Almost perfect, but Leffy, he will bring the smart play back to the table. Around on the board for Sporker to play with. And now, as much as I want to sing their praises, Leffy certainly did a good job. I don't want to. I adamantly refuse, Tom, to sing their praises until we see this 9th round go in their favor as well. Because I look at this and go, this is almost textbook stuff now. We've seen this countless time, over and over again, where a team, they finally claw back one in a very decisive, lopsided matchup. And in that one round, it almost just adds another nail to their coffin as their economy left shattered in pieces, and they're once again just being ground out of rounds that potentially they would have had something to play with if they just...
I'd say that in terms of clawing it back, it was more the mistakes of Bpro that handed that away. They had a 2-man advantage into that round, and they peaked multiple times.
Exactly.
If they just held their angles like they'd done in the previous round, they would have had no problems, and that's where things have sort of switched. They peeked into players, they gave away the frags, and we saw it again in that 2 versus 1 towards the end of Fitchco. If he'd stayed alive, his teammate was on that flank. He knows he's on the flank. He can see him on the map. He can have the sort of ringing in his ear of his teammate saying, okay, just buy the time. Yeah, exactly. But instead, he doesn't. He peeks, and yes, it could, maybe he went for information, but if he was on that site, there's no way that you see Lefty going all the way back round over towards A, because he has to go through someone. So, yeah, I feel like it was a good round, great round from Lefty, really played that last play smart, and I think that is a great platform for them to start building back into this one. But, yeah, as said, if Bpro just go back to playing the way they were with a little bit more of a safer, more passive role, then there's not going to be too much of a problem. Instead, they have gone for some aggression. NK is going to be caught out, but at this point in time, I think they were just going for information, and this has sort of gathered it up because they know there's one at least towards drop. Doesn't really give them too much info, but this peek will from Nicky, and again, he's going to get himself a nice easy frag. No trade just yet, and nice position from NK, just holding off any sort of aggression from his teammate. This push has failed miserably, and again, no utility expended for the T side.
Textbook stuff coming in. Bpro, they're just sending Squawka back to school. They're showing you, okay, if someone faces you in a close angle such as that, leans back towards block, you don't just go for the wide face and try and trade it back, because there's always going to be a player either over towards Chicken Coop, over towards Olaf, over towards Fountain, over towards the right side of block, over towards Tree. I can keep on naming these spots where they could be. There's always going to be a player there to pull off the bait and switch style of play. Squawka, you need to up your game. You need to bring something new. Yes, you might just be a mixed team, but at this point, it really is starting to show. An 8-1 scoreline. They're going to be barreling out on towards the B site. Yes, they'll find one in very quick succession. It will be traded back. Nicky going to be there. NK now looking to do some work of his own with the rifle. Really with a lot of pressure on his shoulders to do some damage, as the pistols will be allowed to claw too, which makes it so much more closer contended, because now these 2 rifles, they are under fire. And Lefty, they catch them off guard.
Yeah, again, they really do just fall apart when they come up against fast pistol plays. They are unable to counter. They did have some nades thrown out, but there was no crossfires, and eventually they do fall. So that's the round that somehow comes out onto the board for Sporker.
Surely Sporker at this point should realize, okay guys, we've just won a round off the back of being overly aggressive, overzealous, not even basically playing standard team-based Counter-Strike, I want to go as far as saying, just flat out basically rushing a site. So surely that goes, okay, we've got 5 rifles, let's rush. But no, they're playing passively. They're in a default. And Blocker, he hands away another free, easy pick to find to Zek, and I'm just sitting here confused. I'm just like, why would you go for a default at this portion of the game? You're in an 8-2 scoreline. Yes, they will find themselves a trade back on toward the Fitchco, but it's just not enough.
Well, the thing is, their default doesn't really involve a setup. That's the big problem. Their default involves individually pushing different places rather than actually pushing as a team. So they're not throwing out smokes. They're not actually doing a default. They're just standing as if they were in a default and then deciding to push one by one. We've now seen 3 players in a row. It's almost as if they're trying to prove me right, because it's absolute insanity. One player pushes, then another pushes, then another pushes. Maybe one of them gets a frag across the board, and then the last just jumps into drop. If you use any sort of utility there, or you play as a team, that's the big thing. And when you talk about the idea of, why don't they just rush somewhere like they did before? That's the only time this team is playing as a team. Because they go, okay, rush B. All 5 of us go. They trade out frags, they find headshots, and they don't use any utility. Then they go back to a default where they have weaponry, where it isn't the best idea to rush, because it's much easier to, when you run and gun with the Tech-9, to just hit them in the head and you do the job. Whereas with a rifle, it's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more tactical. And because of that, that's where you use your utility. Use a flashbang, use a smoke, use a Molotov to clear angles. You talk about Nicky playing up close to the Mag 7. He's been in the same spot 5 or 6 times
I just wanted to mention that. He's been there so many times in a row. How have they not checking it now? How is the jig not up? It's like performing the same dance routine 24/7.
Well, they know he's there. It's not. That's not what the problem is. They know exactly where he is, and they do check it. They just lose. The more
Flashes,
important
Molotov,
factor is, Molotov
smokes.
is the big one. Molotov is the big one. You throw a Molotov there, he has to move either further forward, which gives you the advantage, or further back, which means he's out of spot. either way, it's your advantage. And somehow in this round, it's an individual play once again. I'm not really sure what on earth this setup is. Payne doesn't even look like he's moving, but somehow it's worked out wonderfully for them, and they found all the frags across the board. This is sort of the thing. Eventually, Bpro may make some mistakes, and you will win one of these rounds where you're playing as individuals, but it's not an actual tactic. There's no sort of brains behind these sort of plays. It's, okay, well, maybe I win a one-on-one duel, and we get around. Maybe all of us win one-on-one duels and we get around, and maybe even we'll get to break their economy off this one.
That hits the nail on the head. Maybe if we win some one-on-one duels, we'll pick ourselves up around. That is the storyline of how they've got the 3 rounds, Tom. That is not something that you ever want to be saying in a game of Counter-Strike at this sort of section. And now we go back to what we've seen so many times. I don't even need to describe what is going on because everyone must be used to this at some point. Yes, Leffy, he will find himself one trade, but there you have it now. The Mag 7 doing some work, just going to be jumping around the place, finding himself too. Yes, there we have it. The trade coming from Blocker. Textbook, where's the script? Might as well be reading off it at this point, because of Fishko, of course, he finds the headshot, the shutdown Blocker towards the end, and we end in the same scenario. 3 minutes left standing, 2 players rebuying, and it's the same narrative just over and over again. I feel like we might as well quite literally just write a script.
Well, the thing with that one is they do go back to that fast play, but it was more the idea that...
It was segmented.
No, that's not it. It's the fact that it works when they have Tech 9s because they can keep running. The second they stop, something seems to just go wrong where they don't really know what to do, and that's where utility comes into play. That's because you don't just peek into an angle against an M4 with an AK because you have to hit the instant headshot, which they're not doing. Whereas with a Tech 9, you can sort of keep running and just spamming, which you definitely can't. Well, occasionally you can do with an AK because Valve is broken, but it is. And then when they don't go for these sort of fast aggressive plays, they go back to segmented play, which just means they have to sort of win the 1v1 duels, which they most of the time won't do because Bpro are a better team.
Well, I think, just along that trade, I thought one of the reasons that segmented really is a word that sticks with me is when they try and fall back to almost having to use some utility, you see sort of 2 players further up the platform, then you see 2 about 5 seconds behind them, and what's working on their Tech 9 based play when they just go balls to the wall, which is what we need to see in this round, by the way, it's just they are clustered together. There is a step between all 5 of them that allows them so much mobility to move around just as a mobility cluster bomb, in effect. And we'll talk about that's what we want to see. They're not going for it. They're just spreading out together. Not necessarily a default. They've got a lot of pressure over towards this B site, one lurking. This individual pushes with Deagles and Tech 9s.
Yeah, no, the thing for me is just they are losing these individual duels because Bpro are just good. Their aim is on point. I can't take that away from them. A Fitchko over towards Drop has hit that headshot 9 times out of 10. I think one of the rounds they actually lost was the one time he actually missed. He's been on point, which, again, I'm going to bring up utility. I don't think I really need to at this stage, but nade usage is just not there at all. Flashbang could catch him out, and it definitely is a big problem. For Bpro, this is much more what was expected from a sort of a team play basis. They have a lot of positions that are held down very nicely. They have that sort of play where Nicky is baiting players in, and overall their CT side, apart from when they were rushed by pistols, which I still feel like is a very random element and can actually be quite hard to counter, apart from that, they've actually been very, very good. Against Byrons, I don't think they lost a single one, except for the one where you saw the player push up plat and get 2 kills.
I think very, very good. You look at this scoreline, I think that's sort of a self-explanatory storyline. 12-3 on their CT side. Now they go on to their T side, the very much so sided portion of Cobblestone. If they walk away with this round, we are as good as done right here. If they don't, they have many a round to play with in terms of just trying to keep things back into their favor and try and basically claw back the impact Walker can bring. Now talking about this pistol round, Bpro, they want to go just 5 sets of flat Kevlar. Leffy going to be going for a bit of an aggressive push, and this could work wonders. Walker, they get just so much information to play with. The one being found, but 2 Glocks going to be just rattling off the shots, taking down Blocker and Payne, looking up for a third. Will be as SHP just taken down over towards Chicken Coop, and at this point it's all on Leffy, all on Poison. They're the 2 players wrapping him from behind, but they need to go together. They're going somewhat individually, but thankfully Leffy will connect the first shot, looking for the second, connects it, but still the trade finally going to come back. Psycho doing some damage of his own, a 2 versus 1. Poison somewhat caught out in the open, but now just going to be peeking around the shoulders of this platform area. 2 players stacked heavily towards Drop. I'm hoping they kind of split back and fall further. No need for them to play aggressively. They have a minute on the clock to toy with Poison. No need for them to rush.
Yeah, and this is just baiting in. Nicky should have this kill very, very easily, although has to sort of maybe move a little bit quicker. Doesn't want to leave it solely down to his teammate, and in fact, I think this should just be the sandwich. Yeah, much better. I think actually in that round, Sporker seemed to have a decent strategy. The only real problem was they didn't hit their shots. And onto the site, it came down to the fact that they just got completely out-aimed. The two players flanking tried their best, but when you're already in a huge disadvantage, you're flanking, it's very, very difficult to actually bring back those rounds. So the idea was fine, execution, not so much.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as much as the idea may have been there, if the frags aren't being hit at this point, it spells a very drastic end. Because now we are on that 13-3 marker, a marker that no team wants to find themselves heading towards. CSGO, he will be on the receiving end of just a small imprint of damage, knocked down to 58 HP, but they have 3 rifles on the board. A single at Tech 9. There is actually a second right behind, I believe. Is that on SMG as well, that's by NK. Quick trade nonetheless. It's going to be just a 50-50 piece of damage, but Psycho, they're now popping out with the Tech 9. Another being found by Nicky as he just maneuvers himself with the rifle. At this point, Sporker caught completely off guard. Just one pistol on towards Blocker. Backed up with a Deagle on towards HFP, which is looking to take the longer range shots. But it's a 2 versus 4.
Yeah, this is a very difficult position to come back from. They may not expect the flank actually running towards it, in fact, and this is going to be perfect actually for Blocker. Didn't expect anybody to come in from behind, considering they have a player on the A site itself. Will come down to a duel which will pretty much end the round. It should, if they're able to make their way back. Probably going to be a little bit more careful now in the form of Psycho, but they shouldn't expect the second player to be in from behind, but considering the first one went round, and now after the footsteps have been heard, this should make things nice and easy in the end, although actually Zek's going to lose that duel. Only needed to connect one more bullet. Fake plant from there, nice work from Psycho, and he finishes off the round, but overall not a particularly good round. They do clean it up, and they shouldn't be too worried because they have to force it. It has to be a force because they
have no choice at this point.
Unless they want to just get one buy-in in the 15th round and try and go from there, it's just not really a viable strategy. So they're going to try and give themselves a chance. Fichko will take a bit of damage from Nicky as well, who's trying to help his Bulgarian brothers and give them a little bit of a chance. But at the same time, they're going for those deegs, so really they have to hit the first shot anyway.
It's all about the first shot, headshot style of damage. Poison, he will be the first of all, but SHP, he will land that first shot, takes down Zek. So a nice trade nonetheless, not something we can be taking away from them just yet. Of course, no real net gains being made. Looks like he will eventually push himself forward enough to pick up the MAC-10. MAC-10 something that is going to be strong in this scenario. Payne going to be finding himself another. The trade looking to come in. NK quite going to find it. Eventually, actually picks it up over towards Drop as he's just going to be going somewhat aggressive. That flash is perfect. Always feel bad for Spalker at this point because they're just caught completely none the wiser. The bomb will be going down by the hands of Nicky himself. Blocker, 1 round remaining. 1 man with just a pistol, and I was kind of trying to run on the tangent of the fact that picking up these weapons, it would be good for them, but the only weapon they did in fact gain was a MAC-10. That's not going to be enough when you're up against these 2 AK-47s who are just going to pinpoint your position, knock you down a peg, and basically show you who's boss in this scenario, especially when we're now looking at Bpro getting themselves onto a very intensive series point.
Yeah, the line has been crossed. Bpro should be taking this one 2-0. I would feel...
Can we get a clairvoyant up in here? I feel like that's almost...
Yeah, so I've got my crystal balls right here, and it's telling me that this is going to end after this round. There's not really too much that can be done. They lost way too many rounds, didn't manage to achieve too much on that T side, and because of it, they're only going to get this one buy, and it's not a good one. At least this time they have a couple of rifles. But at the same time, they still have 2 pistols. They have a scout. They have no utility. They have 2 kits, which is something, I suppose. But they're coming up against a 4-buy with Molotovs and everything they could possibly desire. No AWP, but I don't really know why you'd change something that isn't broken.
You could read into the kits and say that at least they're composing sensible buys. It's not like they're going just crazily. Whatever they can bring to the table, whatever they so choose individually, they are composing solid team-based buys, which is something that we should be seeing no matter what. You can be getting 60 node. You should still be composing solid team-based buys with what you can afford, making sure that you've got a couple of players gunning towards utility, a couple of players gunning towards those rifles and SMGs alike.
Well, if it's 60, no, you don't need to buy. You've already lost.
You get the point. I think everyone, aside from you, just caught on to that one.
Oh, no, I got the idea. I just decided to BMU anyway.
Why not? We've got to have some fun, right? As it seems like Swilker just aren't having any fun at all. It's been a very...
No fun this is done. Blocker trying his best to do a little bit of something to bring this one back, and positional-wise, they do have a little bit of a flank coming in for an AK to be picked up, but not really checking to see if anybody's actually gotten to the site. This leaves it down to Blocker. Clearly, his team don't have too much faith in him, as it's now 1 versus 3. One of the players has already left. Everybody said GG in the chat, so I think my crystal balls may have been right, although there's a couple. Actually, are they going to have to join back? Oh, that would have been great to make them join back to the server, but Zek will close it down. That would have been great. They both leave. No, guys, you got to come back.
I won the round, guys. You gotta, you gotta come back, guys. Oh, technical pause, technical pause. Either way, well, there you have it. It's going to be Bpro Gaming with a second map that I expected to see the first time around. That kind of seems to be